Welcome back, Wildcat Nation, to episode 6 of season 6 here on Wildcat Week. I'm Abby Harvey, joined by Lucas Vargo today. And today we're spotlighting the number 6 nationally ranked men's cross-country team. We'll be joined by senior CJ Kelley and sophomore Grant Flora.
The Wildcats finished 5th at their last meet at Gaines Creek, and our guest CJ Kelley was among one of the top finishers for the Wildcats.
Before we get started, here's your Crossroads League Week in Review.
I'm Isaac Wolf with your Crossroads League Week in Review. In football, number 3 Indiana Wesleyan made an absolute statement on the road at number 10 Marion, defeating the Knights 77-21. The Wildcats put up 742 total yards of offense in the blowout. Kyle Antoine threw for 302 yards and 4 touchdowns, while Ryan Whitwell led the ground attack with 153 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Roosevelt Cage also topped over 100 rushing yards, putting up 117 and 2 touchdowns of his own in the win. Ironically, Marion controlled the football, with their time of possession being 37 minutes compared to IWU's 23, but that's just because the Wildcats scored so quickly. Their longest scoring drive was 3 minutes and 32 seconds. There was no shortage of explosive plays for the Wildcat offense. IWU hosts rival Taylor this upcoming Saturday for homecoming on the campus of Indiana Wesleyan. That game kicks off at 4 p.m. Eastern. That was Marion's first loss of the season. They fall to number 17 in the most recent poll, and they will look to bounce back against Olivet Nazarene next Saturday. In men's soccer, the only 2 ranked teams left in the Crossroads League, Indiana Wesleyan and Bethel, faced off in a top 10 matchup at IWU. The Wildcats shut the Pilots out 3-0 with goals from Guzman Trigo, Yarrick Carnegie, and Taha Husni. The win put Indiana Wesleyan at 13-1, while Bethel dropped to 9-4-2. The Wildcats' next game will be at Taylor on Wednesday at 7. Bethel's next test comes against Marion University at home on Wednesday in a game that also starts at 7. In women's soccer, number 8 Spring Arbor fell at home to number 13 Marion on Saturday in a game that was shortened by weather, 3-1. Layla Brown scored her 10th goal of the season for the Knights, who host Bethel on Wednesday for their next matchup, while the Cougars will travel to Grace. Number 17 Indiana Wesleyan defeated Bethel 2-0 on Saturday to extend their winning streak to 4. They haven't lost a game since the beginning of September, although they have tied a pair. Their record stands at 9-2-2 heading into Wednesday's matchup with Taylor at home at 7 p.m. In volleyball, number 9 Indiana Wesleyan extended their winning streak to 18 games after 2 sweeps this week, one at Grace and one at Spring Arbor. In Wednesday's win over the Lancers, junior setter Abby Porter reached the 3,000 career assist mark, and graduate Martina DeMarchi tallied her 1,000th dig. The Wildcats have swept their last 4 matchups and will look to do the same at St. Francis on Wednesday. Number 16 Mount Vernon Nazarene swept Bethel on Wednesday and defeated Taylor in 4 sets on Saturday. Last week's defender and attacker of the week, Lissy Snoffer, led the team in digs in the sweep of Bethel with 21 and kills against Taylor with 26. Their next offer comes at home against Huntington on Wednesday at 7. Number 22 Marion is 16-5 after a split this week. The Knights fell at home to Spring Arbor on Wednesday before bouncing back to sweep St. Francis on Saturday. Senior Michaela Christensen led Marion in kills with 16. They will head to Bethel on Wednesday before a ranked matchup with number 16 Mount Vernon on Saturday. In cross country, the Ray Bullock Invitational took place on Friday at Taylor University. 13 schools competed, including 6 Crossroads League schools. The 6th-ranked men of Indiana Wesleyan took first place as a team with a final score of 30, 22 less than number 8 Taylor, who took second place, followed by number 19 Grace in third. The top 8 individual finishers were Crossroads League competitors. Indiana Wesleyan's Eli Fullerton won the race with a time of 24 minutes and 56.2 seconds. The women competed at the same race, with number 2 ranked Taylor taking first place overall as a team with a score of 23. Second place was not close, as number 10 Grace totaled 65 points. Number 14 Indiana Wesleyan and Mount Vernon rounded out the top 4. Taylor freshman sensation Janie Halterman won the race with a time of 21 minutes and 52.6 seconds, just 6 seconds faster than second place finisher Esther Cameron of Grace. 10 of the top 11 individual finishers were Crossroads League competitors. As for this week's Crossroads League awards, the volleyball attacker of the week is Lissy Snoffer of Mount Vernon Nazarene. Snoffer averaged 5 kills per set for number 16 Mount Vernon in wins over Bethel and Taylor. The senior powered the Cougars past the Trojans with 26 kills in 55 swings for a .436 percentage over the 4-set win. Snoffer also had at least 20 digs in each victory. It is her second attacker of the week in a row. The volleyball defender of the week is Kirsten Throop of Spring Arbor. Throop anchored the Spring Arbor defense with 53 digs over a pair of matches against nationally ranked opponents. In a 5-set upset of number 22 Marion, the senior libero added a career-high 35 digs and closed the week with 6.6 digs per set against Marion and IWU. The volleyball setter of the week is Abby Porter of Indiana Wesleyan for the 4th straight week. Porter turned in a pair of 40-plus assist efforts in 2 sweeps for number 9 Indiana Wesleyan and averaged 13.8 assists per set in those outings. Porter posted a double-double in a sweep of Spring Arbor with 42 assists, 11 digs, and 2 aces, and she also passed the 3,000 assist career mark. The women's soccer offensive player of the week is Layla Brown of Marion. Brown scored once in number 13 Marion's 3-1 win at number 8 Spring Arbor. The insurance tally helped secure the victory in the critical top 25 showdown. The women's soccer defensive player of the week is Marianne Coro Selma of Marion. Selma scored the eventual game winner in number 13 Marion's 3-1 upset over number 8 Spring Arbor. The holding midfielder found the net in her lone shot of the match and helped the Knights preserve the lead throughout. The men's soccer offensive player of the week is Yerrick Carnegie of Indiana Wesleyan. Carnegie fueled number 6 Indiana Wesleyan's 3-0 victory over number 9 Bethel with 1 goal and 1 assist in the shutout win. The men's soccer defensive player of the week is Logan Smith of Indiana Wesleyan. Smith posted a shutout in that 3-0 win for the Wildcats over Bethel and collected 9 saves in the contest. The women's cross-country runner of the week is Janie Halterman of Taylor. Halterman won for the 3rd time in 3 collegiate races, this time winning on her home course and ending just 0.3 of a second shy of a new course record. The freshman topped the field of 134 with a time of 21 minutes and 52.6 seconds to highlight the team win for number 2 Taylor. And the men's cross-country runner of the week is Eli Fullerton of Indiana Wesleyan. Fullerton set a new course record at Taylor's Bray Bullock Invitational, topping the field with a time of 24 minutes and 56 seconds to lead number 6 Indiana Wesleyan to the team title. That's all for this week with your Crossroads League Week in Review. I'm Isaac Wolf.
So you guys have been ranked number 6 overall. How's that ranking feel for the team?
It's a little different because I think from just past years, like we've been higher, and we lost some guys from last year. So to be number 6, it's cool. I think for me, I try not to worry about the rankings. I try not to look at them. I try not to focus too much on the rankings. But yeah, number 6 is cool. But rankings is just paper. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, no, coach, and this is something that as a team we've kind of embodied is paper is cheap. You have to show up on race day no matter what. And you look at last year, we were ranked really high throughout the year. Kind of had a bit of a disappointing finish to the season. So it's cool to be ranked well, but ultimately we know that we still have to show up on race day. And I still don't think maybe we've shown our full strength as a team yet this year either. So the rankings are still just kind of people are trying to figure out who is good, who has guys that are still going to get better and that kind of thing. So especially these early season rankings, kind of it's cool to be ranked high, but at the same time, you don't put a lot of stock in it. I know last year you guys were ranked number 1, correct, for a while.
Yep.
Does that, not being ranked number 1, does that take a little bit of pressure off you feel? Does you feel any sort of pressure with being ranked so high, or do you feel less pressure than last year since you were number 1 last year?
Yeah, I think definitely when you when you're not, it's you like the underdog feel of okay, no one's looking at us, no one's paying attention, no one's really thinking we're gonna do much, and so it just leaves the pressure off, like you said, come nationals, where it's okay, it's let's let the numbers, let's let the stats speak for itself. And I think too that's kind of one thing I love about running, where it's just the numbers are the numbers, where it's the times are the times. I think for all of the sports, it's football, basketball, it's D1, NAIA, D3, it's you never really know how things stack up. But it's with running, the one thing I love about running, it's if you're a sub 15 guy, if you run 14:30 in the 5K or whatever, it's that time is solid anywhere you go, D1, D2, D3. So I think with running, it's all just about the work and about the time. So
yeah, I definitely think that not being number 1 can kind of relieve a little bit of pressure, especially last year. We had a really good senior class that had been really successful throughout their careers. We brought in a couple of grad transfers. It was going to be Coach Foss's last year. There were a lot of things kind of coming together where it was okay, this is the year that we want to be really good. And we were really good all throughout the regular season. But we also felt that pressure of okay, we kind of have something to lose here. We want to, if we're not good, it'll be a little bit disappointing. Whereas this year, we lost some of those guys, but we still know we're really strong and really talented. And so it's okay, let's see what we can do. The Raiders and everything, they're not going to think of us necessarily as a national contender right away, but we know that we're capable of doing that. So it's a bit of a different feel of okay, now we can go out and surprise people instead of being the team to beat. So for sure.
Yeah.
You touched on the senior class last year being super talented. What has the freshman class this year brought to the team?
Yeah, well, there's lots of talent in the freshman class as well. Some of it's still being developed, and some of it is evident right away. But between the personalities that they bring, we have 5 freshmen that are really, really good guys, really good additions to the team. Again, with their talent, but also their work ethic and just how they fit into our culture, which is really important. Something Coach Foss in all his years was really good at doing was finding guys that fit in the culture, and Coach Byler is kind of doing the same thing. So, really pleased and really excited to have the freshmen with us this year.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. It's like we've had Trenton Sweet, one of the guys, really is just breaking out already. Just really in the front pack already early in his freshman season, and then just a lot of the guys that haven't had their like breakout, necessarily yet, but like are still just being developed. And our team is in good hands after me and Grant or a lot of the guys are gone. So yeah, we got a good foundation.
And CJ, you're in your senior season.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any? You don't have any eligibility after this, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So what are you hoping for your senior year?
Man, I feel like I already even just at our last meet at Missouri kind of really hit what my goal was for the season. I wanted to go. I kind of had throughout just like my college career just a weird kind of like time of fluctuating and stuff like that, where I was in the 26s my freshman year, and then I haven't ran that since. And then now my senior year, I'm running 25. So getting back sub 26 is really what my goal, what I wanted my goal to be for the season. So already being there, running 25 at Mizzou was like hype for me. So really just looking like my senior year to kind of represent the team at nationals. And yeah, it just kind of leave a good precedent of hard work and leadership for the team.
Yeah, no, he and I have been pretty close throughout my 2 years here. And just as far as where we finish in races, and we were at Gaines Creek about 2 weeks ago, and we were together out 5K. We were just running with another one of our teammates, and CJ just goes, "All right, guys, let's go. We got to go find Hunter," who was one of our teammates that was ahead of us. And we're like, "We got to go." And we're just like, "We're dying here, dude. What are you? We can't go with them." And he just took off, ended up really opening up a gap. And again, CJ had a phenomenal race, had a huge PR, and it was just so fun to see because CJ, like you said, he's had some fluctuating ups and downs in his career, but man, that he had a really good race at Gaines Creek. It was fun.
So this senior year, have you taken more of a captain, like leadership role this year?
Yeah, like I'm not like one of the team captains like in name per se, but I think one thing Coach Foss really kind of set for me before he retired was leading without a title, and I kind of took that to heart, where it's like you don't have to be, on the leadership team to kind of lead, or you don't have to be a senior to really lead. I think it's not, leading is not like telling people what to do and all that stuff. I think you lead just by like how you live, right? You lead by your lifestyle, and that's what I guess I just try to do, is just kind of lead just by the work. And we work together, we grind it out together, and then so it's not really me like leading in it per se, but like us working together. We're grinding out there together, especially in the workout. Just like sometimes you need a guy that's feeling good to kind of give the push. So like, all right, who's got our next K? Like, who's got our next rep? So that's just me. Like, I'm having a good season. I'm feeling good in workouts. I'm feeling healthy. So it's like, okay, I'll take this rep, or let me delegate someone else that I know like has it. Maybe they're just not feeling it yet. So it's like just being the guy to like just kind of delegate some things. I'm not necessarily leading, but just delegating.
How's the leadership been from your perspective with all of the upperclassmen?
Oh, yeah, it's been really good. We have a really large senior class just between guys who are fifth years who still had eligibility, plus the guys who are just your traditional seniors. We've got, I don't know exactly how many, but somewhere around like 8 or 9 guys maybe that are seniors, or at least like 7 or 8.
Yeah, something like that.
Quite a bit of guys that just have so much experience, and we're going to miss them next year because, again, when you lose like 8 guys, it's hard to replace, and they're also really talented. But again, between our leadership team, who is like about 4 guys that are like labeled as leadership team, plus the rest of the seniors who are just great leaders, not just on the course, but off the course. It's just a real luxury for the rest of us to have a lot of those guys to look up to, especially these last 2 years when I was here as a freshman. So.
Well, you guys have touched a lot on the meet you guys just had, and the team placed 5th. And then CJ, you guys have talked about his finish. Describe that feeling as being one of the top finishers for IWU.
Yeah, I think when I got here at IWU, like, it took me a while. When I transferred in my sophomore year, it took me a while to kind of get adjusted to Coach Foss's running plan and stuff like that. So I think my sophomore year self wouldn't have saw me in the spot that I am and running the times that I have. So to kind of have that feeling, coming through the chute, seeing 25 minutes, it was quite the experience for me. I remember I came through and I was like, the guy said I was like yelling or something. I don't really remember, but because it wasn't really about me hurting. It was more like the excitement of seeing my time and I didn't know I had the potential to run that fast. So yeah, it's quite the experience to kind of feel like knowing where I was like mentally and physically sophomore year, and then being here senior year. It's just, it's a good feeling.
And I would just add on from a team standpoint, like we were fifth, but I think two of the teams in front of us one was a JUCO team and one was a D2 team, or at least two of them weren't in the NAIA. So we would have finished third out of NAIA teams. And again, I still don't think as a team we reached our potential at Gans Creek. I think we still had guys that could have run better. And then we're so deep. We have so many talented guys like CJ and I, but then guys around us that you never really know where you're going to finish on the team. Like you're kind of always bouncing around. I was 8th on the team at Gans Creek, was like 5th at our meet before that. CJ was 5th at Gans Creek and was like 8th or 9th the week before that. So we're just constantly moving around. And it's just that team mentality. We call it feed the pack, where when one of us has a good day, the rest of us kind of ride that wave. The next week it might be a different guy. But just that kind of idea of, hey, we're going to work as a team. Our team's going to finish well, but we're going to ride the guys who are having a good day. And we're all going to follow through as a pack.
I've seen around campus you guys are just like literally running all the time. What is the training program like? If you could like describe your week, what would it look like?
Grant, you got to hit this one.
Okay. Well, typically we run a lot of miles.
Seems like it.
Yeah, in a very general standpoint. We have different groups as far as mileage. Some of us are higher than others. CJ and I are both around the middle to upper part of the team as far as mileage. We're not necessarily the highest, but we're probably towards the higher part. Mm-hmm. But like typically we'll have about 2 like workouts a week, which will be intervals of like half mile intervals or 1 kilometer intervals, things like that, where we'll repeat those at a certain pace. Those are like faster, harder days. And then we will have some easy days where it's just about getting in mileage, basically at whatever pace we want. And then we'll have 1 day a week that's like long mileage. So that will be about 20% of our weekly mileage. So if like CJ and I are going 70 miles a week, we might have a 14-mile long day.
70 miles a week.
Which is, it's a pretty typical week for us. So, but yeah, that's kind of what our week looks like.
So CJ, go through this last week we just had. What did you do every single day?
Oh, man. What was last week? What did we do last week? I'm trying to think.
That was fall break, right? So we had the Wildcat and the MGH.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. Okay, so Monday morning. Okay, so you have to start for the long run. So Sunday is our long run day. And I think I had like maybe 15 miles that day or something like that. And this was after Mizzou, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
So that was the day like we had to do like all of like a good percentage of that long run like on grass. So coach like wants us to balance like how much running we do on hard surface versus soft surface. So my long run I had 15 miles. So I had to do a good, I think it was 60% of like the mileage on grass. So I hit the course and I did like, I don't know, maybe 8 miles, 6 miles on the grass. And then the rest was like just around campus. So then Monday morning, we had a hill like interval workout, and this was at Marion General Hospital. Like has this little trail that has a little hill. It's like 400 meters, and we did 12 of those or something like that.
Yeah.
12 hill repeats or something like that. And then so Tuesday after that was just regular mileage, which is like we run anywhere from like we do like timed runs, so it's like anywhere from 50 to 65 minutes. And then Wednesday the workout?
Yeah.
So Wednesday.
Oh, jeez.
Wednesday, so we had this new workout. Like, this is something we've never really done before in our program. So it's usually called like a mission kind of workout, but we call it the Wildcat workout, where so we started out with so with all our workouts, we do a 20-minute warm-up and a 20-minute cool-down. So we did a 20-minute warm-up, and then we had, the mile first?
Yeah.
And then so we had a mile, and then we had a mile, a 1,200, and then an 800 and a 400. But between each of those, we had a 5 minute and 30-second what we call a threshold, which is you're running at, like, how would you describe a threshold?
Yeah, it's like where you're like breathing hard, but you're not necessarily digging toward like your anaerobic or like your speed. So if you can run a 5K at like a 5 flat per mile pace, your threshold might be like a 5:30 pace. So when you dip down to like what CJ is talking about with the 5.5 minute threshold, it's like running that pace, but for 5.5 minutes.
Yeah. So we did the mile, the 1,200, 800, 400, and then in between each of those, so we did the mile, we did the threshold, we did the 1,200, we did the threshold, we did the 800, we did the threshold, we did the 400, and then we did our cool down. So this was like, it wasn't, I don't know how, it was a first time I did the workout. So naturally, like, first time you do a workout like that, you're going to feel a little weird about it. But it was quite the experience, I would say, because it's really like you're just nonstop running. Like, you're not like, even like the threshold in between like the one rep to the next rep, it's like, it's not like a calm little jog. Like, it's a nice, like, you're going. So it's like we were running hard for, however long it was. So yeah, so then that was Wednesday, and then so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those were just easy, mileage days, and then Sunday, long run, which I think I had 14 miles that day. So yeah, it depends on the week too. So yeah.
You mentioned running on hard and soft ground. What's the difference between those two surfaces?
Yeah, I think that's kind of just to limit, like, especially when you're running higher mileage, to limit just the wear and tear on the body and on the legs, on the knees, especially for a guy like me. Like, a lot of what hindered like my growth in running was like strength in my knees, and like and how much mileage I was doing versus how strong I was. Because I think for a lot of guys that come in from high school to college running, they get on to a college running plan, and they're not, like, their bodies aren't like adjusted or strong enough to handle like higher mileage. When you're going 70, 80, 90 miles a week, you go from maybe 40 to 50 to 60 maybe in high school, and then you just jump to 70, 80, 90 miles a week. Like, that's going to take some wear and tear on your body. And like for me, like, when I transferred in, I came from a school that had a lower mileage program. So I think with the hard versus soft, like, when you're running, if you're running 70, 80 miles and you're doing all of that on concrete, asphalt, like, that's going to take some wear and tear on your body. So what we like to do is, like, we try to switch some of that mileage to, like, run it on grass or run it on the treadmill or run it on the track, or especially, too, we have the Boost treadmill, which is like a anti-gravity kind of treadmill, where it's like you kind of take a percentage off of like your body weight, something like that. Yeah,
it kind of like inflates around you, and it basically you can set it for a certain percentage of your body weight. So you might set it to 85, and that means you're only running with 85% of your body weight, essentially. So it just makes it a little easier, gives your legs some recovery.
Yeah. So yeah, just limiting how much like wear and tear you're putting on your legs, especially week to week with meets in between and workouts and all that. So
aside from running, do you guys do any sort of strength and conditioning at all?
Oh yeah, we I think especially this year with Coach Byler, we've been doing a lot more lifting. Well, I don't know if we can call it lifting really, but it's like a lot of like body weight and like calisthenics stuff. Yeah, Grant is that guy when it comes to the lifting and all of that stuff.
I don't know about that. No, but it's a lot of like just mobility things, working on like hip flexors and some of those joints that maybe take a lot of wear and tear when you're running. Just it's more injury prevention than anything, and just working on body mechanics, just to make us more efficient runners. It's not like we're doing heavy lifting to like bulk up or anything like that.
Yeah, we're never gonna be huge.
Yeah,
never gonna be huge. But
Did you guys do that long Wednesday workout by the softball field? Like, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, we were practicing and we saw like people, and we were all talking about how we didn't even know what was going on.
Well, we would do our fast intervals on the track, and then we would jump to the grass for the threshold portion. So you're watching us do the threshold.
Yeah. Well, Becca's our GA, and she's dating Colton, so she was kind of trying to explain what was going on. But he like made a running plan for her, so she's been running a lot too.
Yeah, he told us about that.
Yeah, she does it every day before practice.
Yeah.
You guys have talked a lot about like the training difference with the new coach and then you with a new program. How has that been this year, just adjusting to the new coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's an adjustment. It's overall the basics of it, I think, are pretty similar. Like we still had a long day with Coach Voss. We still had like 2 workouts a week. The total mileage isn't that different. There are a few things like the types of workouts we do, or we have these days called quality days sometimes. It's just a little bit different on how Coach Byler approaches it versus Coach Voss. But the bulk of it is the same. And, now that we've had all summer and the beginning of the season to adjust to Coach Byler, like I think most people are adjusting pretty well, at least for myself. But anytime you get a new coach, especially when the old coach has been there for 36 years, I think is how long Coach Voss was there, like obviously it's going to be a big adjustment, especially when Coach Byler is very young. And Coach Voss obviously was at IWU for 36 years. With training and just with everything else, it's been an adjustment, but overall, I've been really happy with Coach Byler. I think it's working out really well.
Yeah. I think like even when like we were going through like the interview process of getting a new coach, there's a lot of like unease of like getting a new coach and like, is our mileage going to be different? Is our training going to be different? But I think one thing that Coach Snyder said when we were like interviewing with the new coaches is if we trust like the main reason Coach Voss's program like worked for us is because we trusted it. And Coach Snyder, our track coach, he was in the process of, with us of interviewing the coach. And he says, if we trust the process of the coach that we have, whoever it's going to work. Like the only reason, the process works, the training works is because you as the athlete choose to trust it, you choose to do it, and you choose to put 100% in it. So, yeah, I think we're starting to see the fruits of that. It's like, guys maybe were a little over the summer, a little timid or a little weary about it, but I think we're seeing the fruit of like just trusting the process with it.
Do you guys, as the runners, have any influence in like picking the coach?
We had a committee.
Mm-hmm.
Last semester we had a committee of guys, from sophomores to juniors. At the time, who were like interviewing with the different coaches. There were 3 different candidates that we all met with, and guys and girls, and we met with all 3 different candidates, and we talked with them, and obviously the decision was up to the dean and the higher ups, but I think we really appreciated the fact how they really cared and were interested in what we had to say about the coaches and how they included us in the interview process. And I think they took a lot of the things that we considered and some issues we brought up to heart, and but I think we were all happy with all 3 of the candidates. We were we were happy with all 3 of the candidates, and we're cool about having either of them as our coaches, and we were happy with the coach we got. We love Coach Byler, so yeah.
So going back to the beginning of your running career, how did you guys get into cross country? We talked about it last week with the women's cross country, like running is other sports punishment. So why did you guys want to get into that?
You going to go first?
Yeah. Like my whole family ran track, and they were all sprinters. Like I was the only one really that, took up distance. So I tried out the sprinting thing, and I remember running the 200 when I was in like 4th grade or something, or the 100 when I was in 4th grade. And I was like, Mom, like I didn't have enough time. I was like, man, it's just like the gun went off, and when I blinked, it was over. So I remember like in like middle school, 6th grade, I tried out to do. Someone said I should try cross country, so I tried it, and it worked out for me, and I kind of just been doing it ever since. It was just one thing. It was the one thing that I was good at in middle school and high school. Like I tried to do everything else. I tried football, I tried basketball, I tried baseball, but running was the only thing that like really worked out for me. So.
Yeah, so my dad actually ran cross country and track here at IWU when he was in school. So he then became our middle school cross country coach. And my brother, who's 2 years older than me, was a runner as well. And so definitely my dad probably played a part in getting us started. But I kind of thought I was a basketball player. So I would run cross and track, and the fall and spring would also play basketball. And I love basketball and enjoyed it, but ultimately I kind of figured out that I was better at running. And originally it was kind of like, man, running is hard. Like, I'm good at it, but like I don't really like it that much. And then as I got in better and better shape and got older, I started to have a love for it. I had a lot of success in high school, and then I just kind of figured out, man, I really like this and I'm good at it. So I'm gonna go on and run in college and run it in Wesleyan, where my dad ran, and run for Coach Foss, who coached my dad. So that was really cool.
When you were also doing basketball and like if something bad happened, you guys had to like get on the line. Were those running punishments like easier for you? You feel like because you did also cross country?
Yeah, I mean, I still didn't want to do them, especially like if we were doing the shorter ones, I wouldn't necessarily win because like I'm a distance guy, not a short sprint guy. But if we would do like a ladder or do one where we had to go like down and back from the court like 8 times, everybody else is dying and I'm just cruising and winning everything. So it was a little bit different knowing I was a runner, but I still didn't like enjoy those times. Yeah. It was still a punishment.
How did you guys ultimately end up at IWU? I know you kind of touched on your story, but kind of your transfer story a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So originally I went to my freshman year. I got recruited to run at Kentucky Christian University, this small little school in Grayson, Kentucky. Then the coach that recruited me there, I had a lot of success there, and I made it to nationals my freshman year and that was like my best times at the time. And then I got, it was like July or June in the summer of my freshman year, and he had called me and he said, I'm leaving, there's some stuff just internally with the university that I'm just like, I'm not rocking with. So he told me he was up out of there. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm out here too, because he was the only reason I was there. So I had a friend that went here, and she was like, you should transfer, check it out. So I filled out an application in May, and then I didn't even know I was going to need it in June or July. And I reached out to Coach Foss. I was like, hey, like this, Coach Foss, like, because he had reached out to me in May when I filled out the application. So I called him in June or July. I was like, hey, like, my coach just quit on me. Like, I don't have a school to go to in August. Like, I was just wondering to see if you have any space on the team for me. And so we talked over the phone, and then I remember I met him here when I came on a visit. And I remember we met in Baldwin. To this day, every time I walk in Baldwin, I remember the spot where we had our lunch at. It was like under the awning, under like Teeter. And we had our conversation, and we talked about, and what I loved about Coach Foss and why I knew like God was calling me to be here is because we didn't just talk about running. Like, we talked about faith, and we talked about just like what it means to like partner worship with running. And so we had our conversation, and I told him, just like, he asked me about just all the things that I did besides running, because like he had all my times, like he know all the things I did, right? So he was asking me like, am I serving in church? Like, what's my involvement in church, and what am I planning to do after college, and all those things. So we talked, and then I remember after he told me, he was like, I was unsure about you before, we talked on the phone, but meeting you in person, I can tell like there was a favor of God over your life, and I really want you to be here. So I was like, wow, it was an answered prayer for real, because I really wanted to come to IWU, but it was like twice the amount of like my previous school, so I couldn't really afford to go here. So he was like, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure you're here. And so Coach Foss was really the reason I was able to come to IWU. So without him, it probably wouldn't have happened. So
yeah, well, for me, I mean, obviously my dad went there and was coached by Coach Foss and Coach Smith, so I had a connection there right away. But I remember I visited as a junior and a senior in high school, and obviously if the program hadn't been where it was at, like, I wouldn't necessarily have come. But the program, not only was it successful in cross country, but it was also Christ-centered in a way that like hardly any other program is. The culture, in my opinion, is the best in the country. I think a lot of our other teammates and coaches would agree with that. I remember having the exact same conversation as CJ did with Coach Foss on a recruitment visit. We ate at Baldwin. And the two things he always told us about were worship and stewardship, and how we worship through running, how it's a way to use the gift that God's given us. And that kind of goes into stewardship. We're to be the best stewards that we can of God's gift to us of running far and fast. And just that conversation was really powerful to me and has really changed the way I go about running. now that I'm in college, is just like, yeah, it's fun. It's a sport. It's competitive, but it's a way that I get to worship the Lord and steward the gift that he's given me to the best of my ability. And that whole idea, plus the fact that like we had a lot of really good guys. It was a fun culture. We were successful. I was like, yeah, this is the place to be. So
What do you guys do as a team, faith-wise? Do you guys do any like small groups? Do you guys go to church together? What do those look like?
Yeah, so we have our own small group that we do. We just call it group, that we meet up during chapel time for a small group. And even within like those small, like that group, we have different subgroups that meet, and like there's a Bible study going on right now, and in past years we've done like accountability kind of group stuff, and we do, even with like kind of a whole team, like girls and guys, we usually do like a worship night before we have meets and stuff like that. So
yeah, and just the way that like we live with each other in most cases, so we're surrounding each other all the time, and we have just conversations about our walks with Christ, and we're just, to us, like that's just a really big deal, as more important than like our running relationship. And I think just living with each other, and like a lot of us go to churches with like groups, like we don't all go to the same church, but like I go to College West, and we probably have 5 guys on the team and a couple of girls as well that go there. So we kind of have our pockets that go to different churches, and we just spend so much time with each other that we can keep each other accountable, like CJ said, and we can encourage each other in our walks with Christ. So it's just kind of a constant thing that we are constantly doing with each other and walking as brothers and sisters.
If you had to think of a favorite memory of all your time with the cross country team, what would it be?
yeah, I think one of the most memorable things is really just a lot of the bus trips we take. Like going to Minnesota, we would go to University of Minnesota last year and past years, but just all of the overnight trips and longer trips that we have together, just like that time on the bus where it's like it can be kind of miserable, but I feel like there's a lot of team formation that happens on those trips when we're just stuck on the bus together and just living in hotels together and stuff like that. Like, I think those are the things that I'm going to miss the most about the team. It's just like living in fellowship in that kind of way. So, yeah.
Yeah, before each cross-country season, so that's 2 years for me, we do like a cross-country camp. And so we'll travel to a camp, and we'll take a week essentially just off campus, right, when we get on like at the start of the semester. And we'll train hard, but we'll also have some fun. Like this past camp, we went to Mackinac Island in Michigan for a day, and we went to Sleeping Bear Dunes, I believe, and just did some of those types of things, played games and hung out as a team. And I always think that time is one of the most impactful, where we can grow together as a team, have a lot of fun, but also just like put in some work and set some goals. And we just really get to know each other a lot better. Like, I feel like after that week, I know the freshmen really well, whereas when we first get there, we hardly know the freshmen. So just those 2 weeks, in my opinion, are some of the greatest memories I have so far.
Going back, the day after a meet, what does the recovery look like? You got like the recovery wise, what does it look like? Do you guys just not do anything? What does it look like to do the recovery?
I wish, but I think a lot of times, like even so, like one thing I think a lot of us always do is like immediately when we get on the bus after meet is we have fireflies, which is like it's this like electromagnetic shock thing that like shocks your legs in a way to kind of get like blood flow going back in your legs. So we do that, and then really I think like next day it depends on what day we get back. Sometimes it's like a recovery long run, or sometimes it's like just regular mileage the next day. But sleep is obviously like the biggest part of that, and that's one thing that Coach Bio like really like preaches, especially like before and after meets. It's like you don't recover if you don't sleep correctly. So sleep is a big thing, and also just long, slow mileage of like not going out too crazy after you just ran crazy. Like, cool, that's great, celebrate that, and then run slow because you've earned that. You ran hard, so.
Yeah, CJ pretty much covered it. With the fireflies, sleeping, eating is really important. Like, as runners, it's constantly like, okay, you've got to make sure you're eating enough and you're eating the right things so that you have the energy that you need. And then, yeah, just running smart and being smart. Like, sometimes it's tempting to just be like, I want to run as fast as I can, as far as I can, because the faster I run and the farther I run, the better I'm going to be. And that's not necessarily true. You have to know when to run fast, when to go hard, and when to go slow. So like CJ said, whether it's a long run or just regular mileage the day after a meet, like you have to be smart and know how slow or how fast you're supposed to run so that you can recover while also getting the work in and continuing to improve.
Well, thanks for joining and just talking about men's cross country. You guys are crazy. Your sport is literally insane. And then thanks, Wildcat Nation, for tuning in to episode 6. We will be here next week as we highlight the women's tennis team. I'm Abby Harvey here with our guest CJ and Grant, and then our co-host Lucas here on Wildcat Week presented by Amplify Media.